Let's talk about Mexico first. And a couple of days ago, I saw a story where they are bringing in 1,500 Mexican troops into a town called, and I don't know how to pronounce this, Ciudad Juarez?
Ciudad Juarez.
Ciudad Juarez. I'm the worst. All right. So I'm like Chris Matthews. With this DL Hugly guy, right? What is this Ciudad Juarez?
Right.
Juarez. All right, anyway, so they bring in these 1,500 troops, Mexican troops, not police, right, to take over the town. And in fact, they intend to have 7,000 troops and police in position in the town after a while. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. And why they did this was earlier they had a police chief that was threatening to actually go after the gangs in the town, the drug gangs. And what they did was they shot and killed one police officer and another guard. And they said to the police chief, every day that you don't step down, we're going to kill another cop.
Right, the cartel said that to him.
Right.
And he actually stepped down.
And he stepped down.
Right.
Right. And the mayor was like, look, we're helpless. You gotta help us somehow. So then I read your post on it, and there's some amazing numbers there.
Yeah, definitely. The cartels, there are two major competing cartels in Mexico right now, the Sinaloa and Los Zetas, right? And, you know, that war alone between the two cartels is bad enough. But now that the government is taking action and, you know, they're, you know, taking their troops and making their troops, battle this problem, they've decided, you know, maybe it's a good idea for us to merge and become one. Now, these two major cartels put together have 100,000 foot soldiers, okay? 100,000 foot soldiers. And then the Mexican military only has 130,000 members.
They got a real army, man. And then so I saw those amazing stats from Anna's post, and 7,000 people in the last year. Mexican civilians, about 6,000 or so, at least, of Mexican civilians, and then some foreigners as well, including Americans, killed in the last year. That's twice what it was just from the year before.
Right.
So this thing is absolutely blowing up, out of proportion, out of control, and including now the grisly beheading of some people. Okay. And it's reminding some people of the Islamic radicals, etc. The problem is totally out of control. Dozens of beheadings in just the last year alone. So then I saw a Wall Street Journal article about it called The Perilous State of Mexico. And there are some people that are concerned that Mexico is going to turn into a narco state within 5 years. Now, what does it mean to be a narco state? It means that you lose effective control over the government.
Right.
That the other army, the 100,000 people army that Anna's talking about, takes over the government. In effect, it's already happened in 8% of the 200 counties in Mexico, where officials say the mayor or the police are not actually running that town. The drug gangs are running that town.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's obviously an enormous problem. And by the way, part of the reason they do the beheadings is obviously to intimidate. But they have an unofficial religion, apparently, among the Mexican drug gangs. They worship La Santa Muerte, which is the Mexican version, apparently, of the Grim Reaper. Here's what I don't want to do. Mess with a Mexican drug gang. Okay.
Right. And right now, the American government has just issued a statement, dissuading Americans to travel to, popular tourist destinations. Apparently, this has been a huge problem in Chihuahua for a while, and and it's increasing in a lot of the beach communities. Puerto Nuevo, which is where I went to, is now one of those little cities, little beach towns that the American government does not want you to travel to. And I was really sad when I heard that news, because it's a great place to go. It's really fun. It's really nice.
And some of our listeners sent in pictures of their trip from Mexico, and does it look lovely? Of course, of course, I want to go to Mexico, but now honestly, I'm scared, man. I'm not sure. And this is, of course, going to do tremendous damage to their tourist economy, among other things. Now, to get a sense of the scope of the problem, the Mexican government is spending $1.2 billion to combat drugs. Now, that's a lot of money, right? And the United States government is giving $400 million to the Mexican government to help them fight the war on drugs. The problem is, you know how much the drug gangs are making every year from drugs? $10 billion. So now if the government's spending $1.2 billion and the drug gangs are making $10 billion, now who do you think is going to have the upper hand?
Look, the cartels definitely have an upper hand at this point. The question is, how do you tackle this? How do you solve this problem? You know, the government taking action alone in the way that they have been taking action so far is obviously not working. The cartels are coming out more powerful and stronger. So, you know, you've brought up the question of whether or not, you know, legalizing drugs is going to make a difference. And yeah, I think that it will make some sort of difference. You know, I don't have a problem with legalizing the drugs. But the question here is, what about the two competing cartels? What's going to happen with them?
That is a great question. And look, there's two different approaches that were taken by the last two presidents of Mexico. In the last 3 years, President Felipe Calderón has had 153 clashes with the drug gangs, whereas Vicente Fox, in his 6-year term, only had 16. So Fox was like, what am I going to do? They got drug gangs. Lay low, lay low. And Calderon's actually going and fighting them. Now, it's only been 3 years, so I'm not sure we can say that there's definitive proof one way or another, but we do know this. It hasn't really gotten any better. Right? So, and one could certainly make the argument that it got worse. So these clashes, we can have these clashes all day long, and to some degree we have to protect the civilians of Mexico. The Mexican government has to take this action. But in the end, I think you got to legalize it. And why? Because to answer Anna's question, will the gangs just magically go away if you legalize drugs? Of course not. They're not going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, great. Okay, well, you legalize it. Well, we were just fighting for hemp. So now that our ideology is won, we'll go back to doing whatever we're doing. No. But and unfortunately, here's a really interesting twist in the story, too. On 9/11, we tightened the border. After 9/11, we tightened the border, right? And one of the reasons that the gang violence has gone up so much is because after we tightened the border and it made it harder to bring drugs into the country, the gangs that ran the drugs in Mexico said, hey, well, then, you know what? We're going to start selling drugs inside Mexico. And that was the unofficial truce they had with the Mexican government, where they weren't going to sell to the local population, and the Mexican government was going to look the other way as they brought all the drugs into America.
Right.
And so once they started selling inside Mexico, first, the drug problem in Mexico started going way up. Drug addiction has gone up 20% every year since. And that's a big number, right? And then they started carving up different parts of Mexico, and that's why the gangs started fighting one another. They started fighting the government, so unofficial truce is over, and they started fighting one another to get. So, and then what they did was they expanded. Now that since they had so much money from drugs, they took the money and they started doing extortion rackets. So there's a lot of towns where you can't run a business without paying off your local gang, right? Including GM plants that are paying off gangs, etc., right? So will they go away entirely? No. But if you dry up the main source of money, which is the $10 billion, right, that they're getting from drugs, will it hurt the rest of their business? Will they wither? Will they get smaller? I think it's undoubtedly yes. Now, the key to that is you got to sell the drugs really, really cheap. The U.S. government's got to take over and be like, hey, look, this sucks. I know we're going to get a certain percentage of addicts. But remember, Netherlands that has legalized drugs has half the addicts we do of marijuana, let alone heroin. And we have 8 times as many people who do cocaine in America as does Netherlands, even though it's legal over there and not legal over here. So yes, you'll have a certain percentage of addicts, and yes, you'll have to provide the drugs cheap. Otherwise, the gangs won't go away. Because if you sell the drugs at a high price, then there'll still be money to be made by bringing it in illegally. But I think that if you go the route of legalizing it, then you're getting rid of the main problem. The main problem isn't the addicts, to be honest. The main problem is the gangs and the unintended consequences, and the bigger and bigger that they're getting. I mean, we can't have Mexico fall in 5 years. So is it actually going to happen? It probably won't be that dramatic, but it's getting horrible out there. So at some point, the U.S. government, Anna, has to say, enough is enough. Right.
I see your point, but, you know, the chances and the probability of that actually happening, very slim. I don't think that the Obama administration or whatever administration is in after him, you know, if this takes that long, I don't think anyone's going to say, yeah, we're going to legalize drugs. It's going to happen. I mean, our country is still too conservative and too right-wing for that.
I think you're exactly right, which leaves us in a situation where we're going to continue to spend hundreds of millions, in fact billions, to give Mexico the money to fight these guys, but the drug guys have more money, and soon their army will be larger than the Mexican army.
Yeah.
And they're better equipped. They have RPGs now, and they're getting as sophisticated military equipment. Why? Because they got the money. And the money brings it in.
Not only do they have the money, they have Mexican civilians ready and willing to participate in this. They have young kids. They train young kids as young as 11 years old to, participate in this type of violence. So
because the gang lifestyle starts to take over a certain portion of a town or a certain town, etc., and the virus grows. The way to kill the virus, in my opinion, is to kill the source of the problem. Just legalize it already. This thing is 100% out of control. By the way, the same exact thing happened, not with the beheadings, but with tremendous violence here in America, when the gangs became enormous. When? When we had prohibition, and we made alcohol illegal. People wanted the alcohol anyway, and hence huge gangs sprung up, and then we fought those gangs for decades afterwards to try to minimize them. We got to relearn that lesson. It's time already.